Hello, this is Christina Bauer, author, here with some author perspective on the latest Amazon LOTR Lord of the Rings prequel trailer. I'm going to talk about some stuff that I think is good, even better than good, some areas that are, worrisome. Who am I? I write 5 to 7 fantasy novels a year. I'm an independent author, which means I have to write that much stuff in order to pay my bills. That's how life goes. In order to deliver each book with a unique world, I do a lot of planning, and I love Tolkien. So one of the big things about my process that I'd just like to quickly touch on before we get into the trailer is the fantasy challenge. And this is how I think about it, and I do think about it a lot. A guy walks into a bar. Someone comes up to you and they start to tell you that as a story. You're with them. There's a guy. He's probably white. He's probably like middle-aged. He's walking on feet. He goes into a bar that's got bottles on the shelves. You're there. The challenge, the fantasy challenge, and it's also a sci-fi challenge, is an alien sloughs into a mojo center. What? Is the alien, does he have skin? Does he have scales? Does he have even legs? Is he slithering like a snake? Is he losing his skin? What happens at a mojo center? Do they plug into the wall? Lots of questions. And as a fantasy or sci-fi author, you can spend 50 pages on this stuff and you still haven't started to tell your story. Because whether it's a guy walks into a bar or an alien sloughs into a mojo center, the thing readers want to know is, and then what, right? That's just setting the scene, and then something has to happen. There needs to be conflict, and especially in fantasy, you got to hit the ground running. Now, one thing that I have to be honest about is that this part is really, really hard, because if you do your world building right, nobody notices your world. They're too busy experiencing it and being immersed into it. It is what it is. You want to sit around and talk about your stuff and, go into exquisite detail on how the snake alien plugs his tail into the mojo center wall to get charged up. Nobody cares. Who are these people? What are their, beings? What are their relationships? What's going to happen? And to be doubly fair, I don't even know if we're single fair, but now we're doubly fair. Tolkien sucked at this. He got away with it because he's Tolkien, but he had other skills that I think offset this in a way. But he's notorious in Lord of the Rings. If you haven't read it, he's the source author for Lord of the Rings, 30 pages of people marching through the woods and talking about how elves and dwarves and their intricate history and they hate each other. In writing, we talk about show versus tell. So he could have covered that by having an elf walk up and spit in a dwarf's face. Probably wouldn't have done it that way, but you get the idea. That's the kind of thing that can convey that quickly using action instead of lots of describing this world you built. But again, if you're Tolkien, you've created freaking languages, you get a little leeway there. And all of which is why I envy the fuck out of things like this. Look at this. This is the original from the original Fellowship of the Rings, Lord of the Rings movie by Peter Jackson. On the left-hand side here, we have fancy pants elves and their super cool armor, and they fight in unison, swoosh, 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 all their choppy knives going on once. On the right-hand side, we have these awful orcs and other monsters, and they're so angry and disorganized, and they're just brimming with hatred, and they run right at the elves. And then even in the back here, look at this. The elves have pretty, pretty little tents with nice little flaggy flags up at the top because they're so pretty. This represents a ton of work, but when in terms of the storytelling, when it's done, 6 seconds, boom. The viewer, the audience member knows exactly what's going on. For me as an author, that would take me 200 pages to get there, to set it up and then have it happen. It's beautiful. Which is why I have mad respect for the folks at Amazon or anyone who's creating visual content. It's really hard. Okay, one of the other challenges here that I want to touch on is what I call the Amazon LOTR stretch. So when Peter Jackson, the director, was adapting Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, he was boiling down, even though he did 3 very long movies, he was boiling down content. Amazon has the challenge that they're using a very skinny book called The Silmarillion. Maybe, I don't know if they have the 100% if they have the rights to that, or just like an even smaller amount of appendices from one of the Lord of the Rings books. So their challenge is they have to stretch that content out. And that's tricky to do. So let's go back to the critique, starting with a guy walks into a bar, which is the world building. Where are we? What's the setting? And I'm going to use the original Fellowship of the Ring trailer and compare it to this first Amazon trailer. From the original Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings 1 movie trailer, this is what, for me, really sets the world. We have humans, we have Legolas, the pretty elf, in his nice little swishy swish cloak. We have Gandalf looking like a mess with his wizard staff, and the little hobbitses. And then over on the right, we've got this dwarf. He's got that's Gimli. He's got nice beads in his beard, looking fabulous. Now let's compare to the Amazon LOTR. This is looking pretty good, right? Far left side, we've got Galadriel. She's got her armor looks a little, crappy because she's used it. It's fabulous. She's got a star on her shoulder. I'm sure we'll find out why. There's a lot of thought here, and there's a world behind it that's bubbling up through her costume design. Next up, we've got the dwarf. He doesn't have any beads in his beard. Did he fail beauty school for dwarves? Is he just a loser? We'll find out. Or maybe he's so fabulous he doesn't even need them. Next up is according to a Vanity Fair article, this is a pre-Hobbit, and, she's got rocks on her head. What's up with that? Are those antennae? Is it a fashion statement? There's some world for her where, hey, these rocks go on my fucking head. And then last up is an elf. He's got these bolshy boots, which I like, because Legolas normally wears the pointy-toed type. He's got some kind of a shirt thing on where there are flaps over his butt. There's a difference here of his history. Great work on the world building. Guy walks into a bar. Alien sloughs into a mojo center. Boom. But now we get to, and then what happens? And that is the big bad. That's what I call it myself. And a lot of authors do, meaning the big bad wolf. Your story needs to have a villain, especially in fantasy. You just can't get away with not having a really strong villain. Or it's super duper hard. I just can't think of anybody who's ever done it. So again, going back to the Fellowship of the Ring, the first thing that the voiceover talks about is this ring. It corrupts everybody. It's kind of a terrible shit show. Boom. And the first landscape wide shot, establishing shot, whatever you want to say, is this shot of Mordor with Mount Doom spitting up smoke and magma. The whole landscape looks like a total hellhole. You can imagine that it stinks. This is whoever's coming out of this and whatever's spewing out of that mountain, if it lands on your head, that's not going to be a good thing. Now let's compare to the opening to the new Amazon Lord of the Rings prequel. Haven't you ever wondered what else is out there? No, look at this town. This looks great. Look at that mountain. It's not going to spew any goop on your head. And it's like a perfect town. There's nobody swimming where they shouldn't be. There are no birds crapping on that statue's head. There's no graffiti. There are no tourists with selfie sticks making things look crappy. This is a really, perfect place. I feel, I'd like to retire there. Also the question, haven't you ever wondered what else is out there? That seems to me like the kind of question that the creative team would be asking themselves over there at Amazon. Haven't you ever wondered? Haven't you ever wanted the opportunity to create more of Lord of the Rings? Hell yeah! But for me, if I take me as an author hat off and I put me as a consumer of storytelling hat on, no. And, I read the Silmarillion, I was like, that's great, got it, moving on. I haven't been like, oh my lord, if the Silmarillion isn't brought to the screen, these random collection of stories, I'm gonna die. So it isn't establishing again that visceral gut punch of some big problems are coming. There are some scenes that show drama. And so, to be fair, I'm going to take a look at the highlight drama scene from Fellowship and the highlight drama scene from the Amazon Lord of the Rings. And Google's going to put up little things in my window because it sucks. Okay. So these are what authors call, or at least I call, feels, right? You need more feels on this page or whatever. For me as an author, I can do this with the stream of consciousness of the character. I can describe how their blood is pounding or the hair on their neck stands on end or whatever. For film, I feel like this is really carried by the actor. And it can't just be a good stage actor. It has to be someone whose visage gets translated by the camera and just pops from there. It's amazing. Like, I guess if you met Humphrey Bogart in real life, this like classic movie actor from the golden age of Hollywood, and he was like a meh. But you put a camera in front of this guy, he looked fabulous. So here on the left-hand side, this is Sir Ian McKellen. Is the ring secret? Is it safe? He looks like he's about to have a fucking aneurysm. Look at that guy. Ah! On the right-hand side is the actress whose name I should know, who's playing Galadriel. She is actually hanging off the side of a mountain with a dagger, but she looks like, excuse me, miss, this was the wrong color for my manicure. She's not conveying to me. That doesn't mean that it's not out there. It doesn't mean that there isn't that film and the actress hasn't done it. It's just that in this trailer, it's not coming through to me. But the good news is there's time. I mean, to my take as a consumer of Lord of the Rings storytelling is that this is Amazon saying, look, we're doing our homework. We're building up the world. Take a look at this. We're going to get there. They haven't yet conveyed the big challenge overarching the series, who's the new, Sauron. And there's time. I think they'll get to it. But again, it's unfortunate because I think this initial foray would have been more powerful if they had gone with a more traditional fantasy route and really hit home about what the threat was. Because when the threat is there and you can have even the most wishy-washy hero or heroine, but if the threat is bad, that really reflects on them and gets you excited to want to help them and be along with their story. So hopefully that'll be coming. Okay, so those are my thoughts. I am an author. You can check out stuff here. Please hit the like button, comment, share, follow me, all that good stuff. I will, if you do that, I'll be back with more thoughts. So that's one of those nice little trade-offs in life. And this is me at a book signing for one of my novels, and I had people show up dressed up as characters from the novels and interact with readers, because why shouldn't you do that? And then why shouldn't you dance? Because that's a really good thing to do with yourself. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to see you back at a future video.